Hey, welcome back to my channel. This video will be the 10 baby names that I love but will not be using. This is the third time that I've tried to film this video. I filmed it like a couple months ago and I didn't like how it turned out, so I never posted it, and then I tried to film it earlier when Grace was awake and she was a mess and she was crying. Okay? I tried to give her a snack. Do you want a snack?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go get a snack. And then she was playing with her loud toys and oh, you dancing with your princesses? It wasn't working, so here I am to do this video finally. So let's jump right in. So I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant with baby number 2, second girl, and I'm gonna start with the girl names because I wrote those down first. So the first name on the list is Emma. This is a name that we loved. We actually pretty much had this name picked out for Grace before she was born. This was like the first name that Greg and I both agreed on. We loved it. We knew Grace's middle name was going to be Louise, and Emma Louise sounds so pretty, but basically we decided against it because it's just so popular, which is fine for some people, but we just wanted a name that was a little bit less popular. I feel like Grace though is kind of a popular name, but anyways, she seemed like too much of a Grace, so that ended up being her name. But that's sort of the reason why we didn't go with Emma, but I do think it's a really, really pretty name. The next name is Emerson. This is a name that I love. Another YouTuber, I'm totally just blanked on her name. I can't remember what her name is, but her daughter's name is Emerson Rose, and I think it sounds so pretty. I think the name Emerson sounds so pretty with like a really feminine middle name like Rose, or I can't think of anything else, but I think it's a really pretty name, but Greg doesn't like the name at all, so that's why we didn't go with that one. The next name on the list is another E name. It's Eliza. I don't know why we like so many E names. I think Eliza is a really pretty name, but for personal reasons we can't use any name, or we choose not to use any name that could be shortened to Liz or anything like that, like Elizabeth. I love that name. I think it's such a beautiful name for a first name or a second name, but for personal reasons we don't want to have a name that can be shortened to any form of Liz or anything like that. So that's the reason why we would never use Eliza, but I do think it's a really pretty name. Another name on the E train is Amelia. That was a name that we actually seriously considered for this baby, but I'm not using it. But that one's not on the list. The next name on the list is Lily or Lilia. I kind of counted them as the same because if you went with Lilia, Lily is sort of like a nickname or a short version of it. But basically Greg doesn't really like the name Lilia, and we have a friend, sort of a friend of a friend, kind of, not a super close friend, but they have a daughter named Lily, so that's sort of multiple reasons we chose not to go with that name, is sort of that it's a friend's kid's name, and Greg doesn't really like Lilia, although I love Lilia. I think Lilia is really pretty because it's a little bit different from like the usual form of Lily. I think Lily is a pretty common name, but Lilia is just a little bit different. It's not like the norm or whatever. The last name on the girls list is Josephine. I love the name Josephine. I really like names that are like long and have a shortened version. Like you could call like Josie. I think Josie is a really cute name, and Josie could be a short version of Josephine. But Greg doesn't like the name at all. Like, no convincing. He vetoed that name. He doesn't like it at all. So moving on to boy names. The first name on the list is Greyson. I've seen this name spelled with an A or an E. I think it's sort of like with the color gray. I think it's like a Canadian American thing, depending on if you spell it with an A or an E, so I'm not really sure even which way. I prefer it better. I think, looking at it written, I think I prefer it with an A better, but this is a name that I would never use because my first daughter's name is Grace, and Greyson is just way too close. The next name on the list is Leo. I think Leo is such a cute name for a little boy. I do feel like, though, he would always be, like, it would always be assumed that he was named after Leonardo DiCaprio. That would be pretty cool, but I just like the name Leo. I just think it's a really cute little boy's name, but Greg doesn't like it at all, so that's not a name that we'll be using. The next name on the list is Dawson. I think this is such a cute name, and I know for me, because I work with children, I work in the child care field, when I've met a child that is a really sweet, kind-hearted child with a certain name, I have like an emotional attachment more so to that name. And I used to look after a little boy named Dawson, and he was so sweet and kind-hearted, and we just had a really good bond. And I kind of think that's part of why I really like this name. But again, this is a name that Greg didn't like, so not a name that we'll be using. The next name on the list is Luca. Again, this name is a name that Greg didn't like, so it's not a name that we would ever be using. But I don't really know what it is that I like about Luca. I just think it's kind of, it's different. It's not super common. I found this name from actually my old boss where I used to work at the daycare. Her younger son, I think, I can't remember, she had 2 sons. One of her sons' names was Luca, and I think that was the first place I'd ever heard the name, and I just think it's really cute. Not super common name. I love names like Luca and like my own name Sally that are not super like weird and out there, like, which there's nothing wrong with that if you want to name your kid with an out there name, but for me, I like names that are common enough that you can spell them. You don't have to explain. Like, if you give your name out to somebody, they're gonna at least have a pretty good idea of how to spell it. And I think Luca is a name like that is not super weird and out there, but it's not super common. It's not like when I went to school, the name Matt was so common. In my group of friends, we had 3 different Matts, so I don't like super common names like that. The last name on the list is Finn or Finley. I've seen Finley spelled with 1 N or 2 N's. I'm not really sure which way I prefer it. I think it's a really cute name. Again, they kind of go together. They're pretty much the same name. Finn is obviously a short version of Finley. I did look after a little boy when I worked at daycare named Finn, and he was, again, a really sweet, kind-hearted little boy. So I have a bit of like an emotional attachment to that name, where I've met someone and they've been a nice person. But the reason I would never use this name is because I'm a huge Vancouver Canucks hockey fan, and the mascot for the Canucks is an orca, and his name is Finn. So I feel like everyone would think that I named my kid after the mascot of my favorite team, because everyone knows that I love the Canucks, so I think that would be kind of weird. So although I do think it's a really cute name, it's not a name that I would ever use because of that reason. So that is all 10 baby names that I love but will not be using. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to follow my journey. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!